Him going off in the last quarter made a big difference because that allowed Steve Turner to take over in the ruck. Winmar, very quiet, I thought, for the first 3 quarters, really lifted his game, and the back line tightened up. David Grant took some great marks. Frawley and Gamble did well in defence in the last quarter. But look, even the Swans there coming off the ground, they don't look happy, even though they've won the game, because they know that they capitulated in that last quarter and they fell in.
Gee, they look sore and tired, don't they?
Like they wouldn't want to play tomorrow. Tommy might call a training run for 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, Drew.
And some of the Saints still just straggling off the ground now too.
Well, Glenn Coleman, I thought, played a great game at centre-half forward, Peter. Tommy made a lot of changes before the game from the selected side before the start of the game. Carroll back to centre-half back, Bolton to the centre, Glenn Coleman to centre-half forward. And all these moves paid off because Carroll played a very good game at centre-half back and Coleman was a good target up there on that forward line.
Rod Owen kicked a couple of great goals towards the end, but Carter was magnificent all day at full-back under pressure. He harassed, he held on, he cleared the ball a number of times. Tui also. Tui was absolutely outstanding on the half-back flank. Tired a bit in the last quarter, but no wonder he just kept getting kicks. Healy, well, they're singing the song now. There's in the Swans dressing room, and they're very happy to win the game and get the 4 points. But I'll tell you what, I think they didn't look too happy coming off the ground because they fell in. There's Barry Mitchell, Dennis Carroll, there's Tui, Bolton, Tony Smith without the jumper there, Michael Filan, Rod Carter in the foreground, and well, they had a loss on Monday against Footscray. I suppose they're happy to get the 4 points. Here's the highlights. Barry Mitchell, early the little men absolutely killed them. That's a lovely goal there to the big guy, Michael Parsons. He was outstanding.
He played a great game, Parsons. Yeah, he got most of the knockouts, but of course 200 centimetres, you'd have to get most of the knockouts. There was a bad loss to St Kilda with a clash with Cunningham, went off with a fractured cheekbone. And the veteran, of course, Craig Davis, taking a great mark and a lovely kick for goal. He didn't do a lot, Craig Davis, but that was a very handy goal. Him and Cordner up on the forward line do provide a focal point anyway. A lovely kick there by Leon Higgins on the left foot, swung it back perfectly. Coleman there did a lot of the heavy work on the forward line, both in the ruck and in the marking duels. And the great snap there to one of the other Swan smaller players, David Murphy. St Kilda in the last quarter, they never really fired in the first 3 quarters, but in that last quarter they really came home with a wet sail and ran completely over the Swans. Here's an incident where Lowe was reported for striking Glenn Coleman after he'd taken a courageous mark.
They couldn't afford to have Lowe out with Lockett out of the side as well. They're your 2 key forwards, Bernie.
That's exactly right, Peter. And there's Cordner. He didn't do a lot, but he came into the game in that 3rd quarter, took a couple of strong marks and kicked 2 goals in 2 minutes. And when you look at that, they had plenty of forwards who could kick goals there, the Sydney Swans. Marcou, a nasty incident, pushed into the fence, unintentionally, I think, by Roberts, but he got the free kick, only kicked a point from it. Owen was the best player up there on the forward line when he was moved to full forward. Of the others, Lowe didn't do much at full forward. At least Owen led, and led well. He kicked, how many goals did Owen kick? Kicked 3 and did a good job. There's another one off the ground, an excellent soccer off the ground, and really that last quarter, there was a good player too. Steve Turner in the ruck in that last quarter gave them plenty of drive out of the middle. Another one to Owen, takes the mark, plays on quickly, and a great forward player in that last quarter.
Well, a one-horse race it was for 3 quarters, and then the last quarter, a very exciting last quarter, but you can see nothing in the kick. Sydney Swans kicked much longer than St Kilda. St Kilda, a lot of short kicks. Marks, well, St Kilda, the mark, more big players taking marks. Free kicks, nothing in that. Handballs, well, not a lot in that either. Hit-outs, Sydney Swans did very well through Parsons today, 40-28, and shots at goal very, very similar. In the end, similar stats, but I thought for 3 quarters the Swans dominated this game. The last quarter, St Kilda took right over.
And now the league ladder. We've completed 2 rounds of VFL football for the season, and the West Coast Eagles, after their 99-point thumping of Essendon in Perth on Friday night, lead on percentage from Carlton, Melbourne in 3rd place, Collingwood up there unbeaten after 2 rounds, and Hawthorn in the 5 on percentage. Then down to Footscray, Geelong, Fitzroy, Essendon and Sydney, all teams that won 1 and lost 1. And those which have had 2 matches for 2 defeats are St Kilda, North Melbourne, Brisbane and Richmond. In the Swans rooms, very tired boys. Mark Bayes there, recovering after a real hard slog, especially in the last quarter, to hold that lead. We'll be back with you in a moment.
that a society capable of putting a man on the moon could do something about blasted unexpected bills.
It's no problem, really. Not with the state banking system.
Ah, dude, I've got a state banking system as it happens. But that's not going to pay the bills if there's no money in it.
Oh, mine's got overdraft.
They have pencils with digital watches in them. Eggs don't stick to frying pans anymore. Overdraft?
The state banking system with overdraft to help you through life's little financial storms.
Wednesday on Family Ties.
It's really scary.
Nick does a beauty contest.
What are you doing in a crown, a cape, and a dozen roses?
I won.
And right after on Hey Dad, the boys improve their interview technique.
Now, listen, what experience have you had? Not much.
Dad, don't say that.
Well, it's true. I'm only 18, and besides... Besides what? Well, how can I get any experience? He always leaves me with the quiet ones who won't do anything.
Family Ties on Hey Dad, the #1 comedies on Wednesday night from 7:30 on 7. Tonight on Alf, Hairball's got the hiccups, and he can't get rid of them. He's tried everything, even holding his breath, but there's only one sure cure for Melmacian hiccups.
All I have to do is drink a glass of cat juice. No problem.
Alf at 7:30.
Hi, Kate. Hi, Juicy. Lucky.
Followed by Valerie's Family tonight on 7.
So, twice a day we'll test your blood, then give you the right amount of insulin with a needle.
But I don't like needles.
Darling, if you don't do it, you'll die.
So I've got to eat what you tell me to and have needles every day till I'm better.
For the rest of your life, darling.
There is no cure for juvenile diabetes. It can strike any child anytime. Please help. Together we can find a cure.
Welcome back to the Sydney Cricket Ground now. Down to Steve Torbett in a room he knows well in the Sydney Swans dressing room.
Yes, I'm down the Swan rooms under a bit of pressure here from a few former teammates, but I've got with me Stevie Wright. Stevie, you happy to get away with the first win for the season?
Well, I think it was a good win in the conditions. You know, anything can happen on a day like today, and you know, we're very happy just to get away with the win.
What about, Stephen, that last quarter fade out? Is there any reason for that? Do you think you stopped running or mentally got a little bit tired, or do you think it was something that can be explained easily?
Well, you know, we kept them down to a couple of goals all day, and you know, to do that to any VFL side is quite hard. And I think it was only natural that they were going to kick a couple, but you know, we really weren't expecting them to get the quick ones.
Stephen, Michael Parsons seems to fit in pretty well. It's been a while since you've had a top ruckman here. Do you think he's going to be an acquisition to you?
He did a great job, and you know, I think he won most of the tap-outs. I think he was a little bit disappointed in his marking, and you know, he's going to improve in that, you know, that aspect over the next few weeks.
Okay, well, thanks, Stevie. Good luck for the rest of the season. I hope it keeps rolling for you.
Thanks very much, Steve.
All right.
The two Steves down there, and let's have a look at the matches next week in round 3. And unusually, we have 6 games in Melbourne on the Saturday. Richmond against Collingwood at VFL Park. The Magpies looking to remain unbeaten after 3 rounds. Essendon against Carlton, a big one. Hawthorn against Sydney down in Melbourne at Princes Park. Footscray play Fitzroy. St Kilda meet North Melbourne. And both those clubs will be looking for a breakthrough win. And Melbourne against Geelong, nearly the match of the round. And a game on Sunday, the Brisbane Bears against the West Coast Eagles at Carrara. So, Peter McKenna and Bernie Quinlan, pretty disappointing for 3 quarters, but we got a stoush in the last quarter. They really came back.
Well, thank goodness that they livened it up. I really think that Darryl Baldock gave those St Kilda players a real tongue lashing at 3-quarter time. They did deserve it because they were second to the ball for the 3 quarters. The Swans had 3 and 4 players around the ball, and they acted. St Kilda were real spectators, and they're used to wet conditions down there at that St Kilda ground. I was a bit disappointed in them, but I think Tommy Hafey wouldn't be too happy with the way the Swans finished on, because that game was absolutely set up for the Swans to take right over in that last quarter, kicking to the end favoured by the breeze. Bernie?
It was, Peter. They were really overrun by St Kilda in that last quarter. I think if Tony Lockett had been in that side at full forward, I think the result might have been a lot different. Don't forget that the Saints hit the post twice in that first quarter, so that 11-point margin could have been a lot closer. Even the Saints could have got...
You guys have played a lot of league footy. Why would it take a team 3 quarters to get motivated?
I think sometimes, unfortunately, the side that travels in this competition round Australia is always going to have at times when they tune off. and I reckon they weren't mentally tuned. And it's all up in their head, and I don't think they were tuned on for the first half of the game, and it really took that tongue lashing to liven them up. And I don't know whether the fact Tony Lockett's out of the side, that they're worried they haven't got the players up forward. Now Stuart Lowe's reported.
But a guy doesn't need a tongue lashing to play league footy, does he?
Oh, they're strange creatures, human beings, you know, Drew, and we all feel in funny ways. But travelling interstate, it's often the interstate sides that find it hard to come up, Bernie.
Well, it can have that type holiday type effect on the players. A lot of clubs have tried coming up on the Saturday night. I know St Kilda came up this morning on the same flight as we did, but it can have the effect of wearing them out a little bit and tiring them mentally, the long trip. But really, you know, they're doing, with the National League, they have to get over these sort of things. They have to get over these problems and just get on with the game and play to the best of their ability. I think that Sydney were the far better side for the 3 quarters, mainly because they had better players all over the ground. I thought Coleman did a great job at centre half forward. That's him in the picture there. And the smaller players, Wright and, of course, Healy was great.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed our telecast from the Sydney Cricket Ground today. A breakthrough win for the Swans. That's all from the Australian Television Network.